All right, guys, it's been a little while since my last individualized video, and that is partly my fault, but I also hope that we got to the point where you knew what was expected with the material that I would post. Most of you were communicating with me on a fairly regular basis about any questions that you had or anything that it was that you needed assistance with or like that. And for that, I commend you. Most of us came out very well for the first semester, considering everything that's going on around us. Making through it was an accomplishment in itself. The remote learning environment is a new thing for all of us. The Schoology platform was new for us this year, and going 100% virtual was something that was brand new for us as well. And I think we're doing pretty good with it. And so I want to keep that up. And all that being said, there's going to be a couple changes for this second semester. And some things that aren't as much changes as they are things that are going to start being enforced that have already been established. And I'll explain what I mean. It's nothing big, no huge changes, but we just need to clarify some stuff and make sure we're on the right path here. So first things first, last semester, you got very used to the style of online teaching that I could do with the civics subject. Well, we're changing subjects. We are on to geography now. So a lot of you have written me regarding grades for the first or second 9 weeks. You're not going to be able to see those grades. You're actually, as far as Schoology is concerned, you're no longer enrolled in those classes. Now, I can still view those grades. They're still accessible because I've entered them into iNow, which is what we use for report cards. So those things are still there. But going forward, we're going to be in the third and fourth 9 weeks with geography. And the style of how we're going to be able to do this is going to have to change because of the subject. Now, when I talked to the in-person classes, one thing that I discussed was there are two different ways that I can teach this class. I could show you a ton of different ways to interpret maps and to interpret data. What does this mean? What does that mean? And go as in-depth as you ever thought possible and leave it up to you to interpret any maps, any information on your own. But that is a way that some people teach this class. That's not the way that I teach this class. That's not the way I want to, and I don't think it's as effective. So what I do is I'm going to introduce you to basically what is geography. What are the different concepts? What are the different terms? What are the different types of maps? How do we use those maps? And you're going to get an overview of these things. But then once we get the overview, then we're going to start chunking up the world. And what I mean by that is we're going to look at individual sections of the world, and then we're going to take what we got at the very beginning, the different types of maps, the basics of how to interpret them, and we're going to apply that information. We're going to use those skills to figure out what these things mean. And the easiest way I know to say this is if I were to say, what is geography? Most people would say, well, geography is the study of the world. Maybe you would even go as far as to say it's the study of the world and its features, like the physical features. And that is partially correct. The best way I know to make it make sense to you is to give you an example. And I think this works very well. If I were to tell you that, if I were to ask you a question and I said, could you name the different regions of the United States? Some people would say, the South, which we would say the Southeast. We might say New England. We might say the Midwest or the East Coast or the West Coast and the Northwest. These are all completely acceptable answers. These are what I'm referring to when I talk about regions of the United States, because we think about the South, the Southeast, as having kind of its own unique culture. And we think about New England as having its own unique culture. And the Midwest, and the West Coast, and the Northwest, and the East Coast, we all consider them individual. But what makes them different from the rest? What separates them? Why do we have these regions? In most of these cases, they're separating land barriers. It maybe is a mountain range, like the Rocky Mountains separating the Midwest from the West Coast. Or maybe we are talking about New England, where you're going to have the peak of the Appalachian Mountains. And, as they travel south, everything to the east of the Appalachians where it levels off, and we have, the beaches like you would think of, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, things like that. And we go down the side of Florida, that's outside of the Appalachian Mountains. So more often than not, it's rivers, mountains, plateaus, deserts. Different things are going to separate these areas from one another. But inside of these regions, we develop our own cultures. We develop our own, accents. We all speak English, but we can tell where somebody's from by the way they talk. So these are examples of the different things that we study in geography. Not just the map, not just the location, but we are looking at what is unique to these certain places. And we're going to do that for all around the world. We're going to take a look at South America. We're going to take a look at Africa. We're going to take a look at Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia, Europe. We're going to break it apart and we're going to look at it, but we're going to look at all these different aspects, and we're going to use the data, and we're going to use different types of maps to interpret it and learn it. And I think if you hang with me on this one, we're going to be able to get through this. And this, for those of you that civics was extremely hard, I think that you may actually do a little bit better with geography. Sometimes having a physical representation of something you can learn, such as a map, makes things concrete in your head. It makes it so it's easier for you to learn and understand. But the opposite works too. Those of you that highly excelled in civics, you may notice that you begin to struggle a little bit in geography. That's fine. That's normal. It's a different subject. It just gets brought into each other because it falls under the social science category. But we use all these things together. That's what makes social science kind of unique, is there's a lot of different subjects that all work together. And we're going to step into that. Now, another thing that you'll notice is a lot of these assignments, they look very different from what you had last semester. And that's because of the subject change. Doing the apples and oranges where we're comparing and contrasting, we may use some things like that. But for the most part, those are more applicable for civics and history. With geography, what we're going to be using, at least at the very beginning right now, is a different approach. And I have the first couple days' work up on my screen right now that you can see. And I will always post in the order that I need you to do it. So what's at the top, you need to do this first. Now, you're going to go in and you're going to click this. What is geography? And it says read it. And it's going to take a second. It's going to load. But what we can do is we can click right here where it says full screen. And sometimes it takes a second. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Sometimes it's easier to do this one. There we go. But this genuinely is for you to read. This would be like if I put the textbook in front of you and said, hey, I want you to read pages this through this. This is what this is. This is going to walk you through, give you a couple examples, but this is like reading a chapter out of a book. Now, sometimes you'll see little pop-ups like this, and this is interactive. This is a timeline. It's the history of geography. That's what this one thing is called. But it's going to show you, okay, 2300 BCE, 450, 240, and what happened as kind of geography developed as a subject and as a science. Okay, and then we come to the bottom. There's a short little conclusion. You will sometimes see 1 or 2 questions here at the bottom. This is just to check your understanding. This is not for a grade. You do not have to submit this like an assignment. This is just checking to see if you get it right. You don't have to worry about submitting it. What was my grade on that? This, that, and the other. This is just to check your understanding of this topic. Now, we completed the first one. We're going to go to the second one. This one is a watch it. So it implies it's going to be a short video. And it is. So we click it. And it starts to play, 3.5 minutes. And that's it. This is to help you understand, to learn the details. And then there's an assess it. Now, notice what's different here. There's a due date. This is your assignment that is for a grade. Now, what I have done is these have the same symbol next to them as your test because it's set up similar to your test. There's going to be sometimes multiple choice questions, matching questions, but this is just like a regular assignment. This is like I put a worksheet in front of you and then we talked through it in class and you filled in the answers as we talked about it and read about it. So what you can do, because this is not a test, if you right click, or if you're on your Chromebook, you can do the 2-finger click, open it in a new tab. Okay, what you can do is you can click on the assess it and it's going to pull it up for you to take it, but you have the text open in the other tab to where you can look up the answers. This is completely fine. I will have these set to show you which ones you got right and wrong, what the score was. And if you get them wrong, you have another attempt. The questions aren't going to change. It's going to be the same question, same answers. They might change the order, but the question will be the same. And all you do is you go in and make your corrections by taking it a second time. And it will take the highest score that you get for that assignment. And then you go to the next. And it says read it. It's the same as the first. You're going to click on this, make it big. We're going to read it. There's the different things in here that we're going to scroll over. That's going to change. It's going to tell you about geographers. There is a crossword right here to help you. Once again, this is not to submit for the assignment. This is to help you learn these words. This is going to give you the exposure that you need. There's a thing at the bottom. This is a slideshow. Click through it. There are different things that are going to pop up. If you click the text bubble, text is going to show up over this picture. Change which one wrong. Click the text bubble. There's lots of information in these pages, and these are to help you learn the material. So then we go back. There's a show it. Now, this one is a little bit different. All right, I loaded up the PDF so you can view that. There is, your directions. Geographers are more than just scientists who study maps. They ask questions about the space around them to answer the questions of how and why. Read each question below, then answer it to the best of your ability. Remember that if the question is asking you to write your own response, this is not copy and paste, you must answer in complete sentences. Now, this is a little word web. Complete the following organizer by identifying the concepts that geographers consider when completing their work. Write each concept in its own bubble. We just talked about how you could have these open in the background. And that's what you do. Those things that you need are in this text. So that's what you need to reference. And we go down. What are the 2 main areas that geographers study? In your own words, describe the differences between a historian and a geographer. In your own words. What method of questioning do geographers use? Name at least 3 jobs that consistently use geography. So that one, you complete the PDF in Kami, and then you submit it. And then the last one, you would Do the read it, then practice it, and then assess it. Remember, only the ones with the due date are the assignment that you have to submit for a grade. Now, sometimes you will see these aren't that long. Sometimes they'll be longer. Sometimes you'll be able to knock these out super fast and there won't be any issue whatsoever. But sometimes we'll be on these for a couple days. Sometimes you'll have multiple ones in one day because they're so short. But we've got to pay attention to the due dates. When something is due, that is the last date and time that you can turn it in for full credit. After that day and date and time, you begin to lose points. If it is within the first 24 hours of it being late, that is 10% off. If it is 2 days, 20. 3 days, 30. This is in the syllabus. I put this in there. And those of you that are remote, you know that you have a certain period of time to get it turned in after the due date. That's those 3 days. Once we pass those 3 days, you will see that these assignments lock. And what that means is after it passes the lock date, then it's not going to be there for you to turn in. That is for you. That is for me. That is so we can continue on a correct schedule. You know, when we get to the end of the 9 weeks, trying to do work from 4 weeks ago, just so your grade isn't as low as you want it to be or as high as you want it to be. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't do any good. We've already taken that test. We've already learned that material and we've already moved on. That's not accomplishing anything for your education. So that is why that is there. We have to stay on schedule. I have to have time to grade this stuff. There's between the 2 grades, there's around 120 of you guys. And if you are submitting at one time out on a day, 3 assignments, then that's 360 things that I have to grade. That takes time, guys. When you just submit something and say, hey, can you grade this real quick? The answer is going to be, no, I can't. I've got a lot going on. Maybe it is meetings that I have to do here at the school. Maybe it is training. Maybe it is me training other teachers in Schoology. Maybe it is I've got after school basketball practice. There's a lot going on and it takes time to do this stuff. So there has to be a cutoff date. Now, if there is an emergency situation or something is going on, I'm understanding of that and I will work with you on an individual basis. But, saying, hey, I had a doctor's appointment yesterday when it was due. Well, you've had it for 3 days. Why haven't you done any of it? Is going to be my response. And then we're going to go from there. We've got to have some accountability here. So we're going to have to be strict on that. I think we'll be fine. We should be fine. Most of you that there's any issue, you've reached out to me. We know what's going on, and I don't think this is going to be a problem for anybody, but I've got to say this. So once again, I'm going to wrap this up. It's been a year so far, but we're getting through it. We're going to continue to get through it. I'm going to continue to do the best that I can. I need you to do the best that you can. And if we're both doing that, there will be no issue. And hopefully, I'll be able to see you in class when you come back. If you're an 8th grader and you're not coming back this semester and I haven't gotten to meet you, I hope that communicating with me on email and Schoology has been, I'm not going to say the best situation for you because I don't think that exists right now. But I'm doing the best that I can, and I hope that you see that, and I hope that you understand that. I'm never going to shortchange you. So if you have any questions, I know this has been a long video, But if you have any questions, feel free to write me. Feel free to email me. If you write me on Schoology, please create a new thread. Don't respond to something that I've sent you. Just click into your page and you'll find my name and send me a message that way. Sometimes if you send me a message to a post that I made, a month ago, it kind of gets buried in the messages and I don't see it until much, much later. And if you send me an email, put something in the subject line and then write your message in the email body. Don't write your entire message in the subject line. Once again, it helps those things get organized in the email so that I can read everything in the correct order. I think that's all I have right now. As we go along, I'll post some more videos explaining things, and I will be talking you through some subjects. But remember, top down, pay attention to your due dates, pay attention to the times. If you got questions, send me an email. I'm here for you, and I will try to keep updating you with everything that I can. And we're going to make it through this.